Hi there, it's Misty. Welcome to another card video. I have 3 cards to share with you today. I am playing around with the Deco foil transfer gel, and I got a little carried away, but I wanted to show you this paper that I'm using because it's really cool. It has a really cool sheen to it. It's by Tonic Studios, and it's ONYX Black Pearlescent Cardstock. It's got it's a nice quality, nice thick. I think it's 92 pound, but it's nice and thick. And it was almost like a matte glimmery paper, if that makes any sense. It looks like it should have sparkled, but it was matte, and I just loved it. So I wanted to put some hearts on it. So I'm using the Reverse Hearts stencil by Simon Says Stamp. Oh yeah, this is for the Simon Says Stamp Wednesday challenge. The theme this week is wedding or anniversary, and we are featuring products by Simon Says Stamp. So I'm using the Reverse Hearts stencil by Simon Says Stamp, and I sprayed the PIXIE spray on the back of my stencil, which makes it stick beautifully. I love that spray. I highly recommend it for anyone that uses stencils. It's just a spray you put on the back of your stencils, and it's got a low tack. It's repositionable, and it just makes your stencils stay in place. So I don't have any tape on this at all. I just stuck it right to my laminated piece of cardstock here. So I'm also using this Stencil Pal, which is this scraper, but I did this 3 times because I made 3 cards, and by the third time I did this, I figured out to go from the top to the bottom, and I wouldn't have a crease across it like you just saw happen. The scraper isn't as long as my card is, so I had to go over it twice, and every time I did it, it kind of left a crease because it's different pressure, obviously. So it's way smarter to go from top to bottom, and then you won't get that crease at all. Anyway, so I'm using the Deco foil foils here, and this is a color called PEWTER, and I love this color. I've been waiting to use this. I wasn't sure how it was going to look on this, mostly black cardstock, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. So I'm using my Minc machine, which I have off camera, and I just put it in the little folder type thing here, and then I ran it right through the Minc machine. And because of the paper I'm using, it's not just a plain cardstock. The foil is sticking in between the hearts too, and at first I thought that I had ruined them, but then I noticed it was on all of them, and I kind of liked it. It just kind of gave it a little bit more character, and so I just went with it. I should mention too that you don't have to have a Minc machine to do this. Just a regular laminator would work, and you can just put it in between parchment paper. These clear folders came with a Minc machine, which is why I have them, but otherwise I believe parchment paper comes with some of the Deco foil toner sheets. So just thought I would mention that. And then I'm using the Deco Hearts die by Simon Says Stamp to cut just a vellum heart here. And then I had to use the adorable Babe die by CZ Designs. It's one of my many nicknames I have for my husband. I'm just using white cardstock for the base or the shadow part of the die, and then I'm using the black glitter cardstock or paper by Simon Says Stamp for the top layer. I figured the background was pretty shiny, so I didn't want the sentiment to be too dull. And it looks beautiful. I love this die. I love any die that has a shadow die included. I think it's called a shadow die. I think I say this every time too, but I'm still really loving these dies. And I'm going to use the rounded rectangle die by Hero Arts for to cut down my card front. And then I'm going to add some black craft foam to the back of it just to give it a little dimension, since nothing else has dimension on this card. This one I was keeping kind of simple. I thought I was going to put a secondary sentiment on the front, but I just couldn't find a good way to do it with the heart. I thought it would look kind of weird being outside of the heart, and it would look kind of weird if it was right directly centered underneath the babe, and it would look kind of funky if it was off to the side too. So I just stuck the babe on the outside, and then the sentiment I put on the inside is the same one I used on one of the other cards. It says, "Even after all this time, I still love you." And I'm using some 1/4" score tape on the front and back. And then I'm just gonna put everything together. Now, with the vellum, you know, you can't put tape or adhesive on any parts that are gonna show unless you don't care if the glue shows through, because I haven't found a glue or tape yet that you can't see through to the other side. So you got to get creative with vellum. So I am only going to put glue on the vellum behind my word die here. So I'm going to attach that first to the vellum so I know right where it's going to go. And then I'll flip it over and add glue just to that area. And I'll add a little bit more in a second here. Like I said, you got to get creative with it. Now there's a little bit of glue at the top of the first B. It kind of splurged out from behind it, so you can see it a little bit, but it's not too bad. But so here is another creative way to add a little bit more glue, is I just put a dot right behind where my jewels are going to go, and then I'll put another dot right on top, and then that's where my jewel will go. And it's just, it wasn't curling or anything, but that was kind of a big space over on that right side. So I just wanted to add a little bit extra adhesive so that it doesn't try to curl. Because sometimes it does. I don't know what makes it do that either. I don't know if it's just my weather here or if anybody else has that problem too. And then I added a little bit more down at the bottom. And the jewel that was on the foil, I almost wiped off the excess there, and I'm glad I didn't, because it dried clear and I would have just made it worse if I would have tried wiping it off. So I had to stop myself there. Alright, so now I'm moving on to the rose gold colored background, and I thought the Victorian Velvet Distress ink would coordinate nicely with that color. And I'm just going around the edges, and I wanted to keep the center a little bit lighter. I used a stitched heart die this time. I wanted to have a little stitching around the outer edge, and I believe it's the Lawn Fawn stitched hearts, but I'll have links to everything in the description below. Okay, so now I'm just using my anti-static powder since I'm going to be heat embossing. Don't want any stray embossing powder. And I'm using my Misty. I just got in the habit of doing this now. I mean, it's a really simple step. You know, I could have done it with an acrylic block, but I just didn't want to have to ink blend that over, so I always just reach for my Misty now. It is one of those can't live without items. I just recently did a giveaway because I reached 2,000 subscribers on here. Yay! But I did a giveaway, and in order to enter it, I asked everyone to tell me at least one crafty item that they couldn't live without. So it's very interesting to see what people thought they couldn't live without. A lot of people said paper trimmer, which kind of surprised me, but the Misty was another item that was mentioned often. All right, and I should mention here that I did test my heart first before I put the embossing ink on. I just wanted to make sure it was dry, so I cut it out, but I poured a little bit of embossing powder on the heart to make sure it was dry before I embossed it, and it wasn't quite dry, so I just hit it with my heat tool for a little bit and made sure the ink blending was dry before I put the embossing powder on it. And the more I kept looking at it, it just seemed like that heart was a little too big. The sentiment was kind of getting lost in that big heart, so I just took the next size down, and it just worked out where I could cut right out of the heart that I had already done. I didn't have to re-ink blend it. And I am going to get the hang of this thread if it's the last thing I do. I had such a hard time with it in one of my recent videos, but I thought it would look really pretty with the gold embossing powder and kind of rose gold theme I had going on here. Didn't take me that long. I was happy about that, but I did put a dot of glue on both ends of the thread. I just didn't want it popping out somewhere, so. And then I made sure that they were behind the heart. I added some craft foam, or craft foam, foam tape to the back of my heart to pop it up a little bit. And I almost had a baby heart attack here because as soon as I got close to it with that foam tape, the thread kind of jumped up and attached to my heart. So luckily it didn't mess anything up. But I was panicking. I did it to the other one too, that I'm going to do here in a minute. And then to finish it off, I'm just going to add some of these black jewels again, or gems. I love these. Are they jewels? Gems. Jewels. I think they're jewels. But I'm loving these jewels. And that was my second card. Oh, and I did cut out the stitched wonky rectangle, I think it's called, by My Favorite Things, on the rose gold one, and also on this pewter background. And then for this one, I really liked the softer pink, the cotton candy cardstock by Simon Says Stamp. And I really wanted to use that because I thought it looked really good with this background, but I had a little bit of issues with it. I wanted to heat emboss it in white, but because that paper was so light, it seems like it was kind of hard to see the sentiment. So if it wasn't for that, I thought these two colors would go really well together. I even tried doing it and just stamping it in black ink, and I didn't really like that. So I tried it with a white border, thought that might brighten it up a bit. Didn't like that. I even tried it with some vellum, and I wasn't feeling the vellum either. So I was just having a heck of a time figuring this one out because I really wanted to use that soft pink color. And then just to add a little extra interest, I put that strip of vellum behind it. It's got a stitched border around it. It's by My Favorite Things, but it's not available anymore. But you know, they have the stitched borders that I could have just as easily made it with the stitched border. So then I thought I would try adding some of that Victorian velvet color to it. And I'm getting closer because with that darker color, it made the sentiment pop out a little bit more. But I wasn't really liking the color for this one. Because again, I really was trying for that cotton candy pink. But in the end, I just decided to swap it out to the darker pink. These are the two pinks I held next to it in the beginning, was the doll pink and the cotton candy. And I liked the cotton candy color better, but I tried and I just didn't like it any way I tried it. So I like the doll pink too, the hot pink. So once again, I'm going to have to only put the glue behind where that circle is going to go. And then for this one, I'm going to pop this up on some foam tape as well. Hopefully you guys can't hear the booming surround sound that my husband is listening to out in the living room. We recently hooked our surround sound back up. We haven't had it hooked up since, gosh, so two or three houses ago. So a couple years. And we finally got it hooked up, and he's been taking full advantage of it every night. But it sounds like we're in the movie theater. I'm sure everyone on the around us can hear it too because we have all the windows and doors open right now because it's hot. Hopefully you guys can't hear it. So I'm going to add some silver thread to this one. I just love this look. It just kind of adds like a soft little something extra. Even though I struggled with it. Well, almost every time I use it, I struggle with it, but I'm still going to keep trying. I'll get the hang of it one of these days. So I'm doing the same thing, just gluing the ends down and behind where the circle's going to go, so it doesn't pop out anywhere unexpectedly. And I used a silver for this one. I thought silver would look good with this background. And then here again, the thread, like, I don't know if it's like static. It jumped up at my circle here. So I just, I was panicking, but I just went with it. It jumped up, and so I just lightly pressed it down. It wasn't quite stuck yet, so I was able to move it and straighten it, which I was very thankful for, because it was a little bit crooked. And then once I kind of got it where I really wanted it, then I pushed it down and make sure it was nice and stuck on there. See how pretty that is? I don't know, I'm liking the thread these days. I think it's kind of an older technique, but that's okay. I'm always late to the party. And then I just wanted a really thin layer of the same dull pink. So I cut this to, I believe it was 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So it was in between 4 1/4 and 4. But it's just enough just to give it a really thin layer. And then I'm using liquid glue on both of these parts just so I have the wiggle room. Make sure I get it in place. And then I'll glue this on and just add a couple embellishments. I'm as much as I wanted to use the cotton candy pink, the lighter pink, I'm really happy with the way this turned out. I think the dull pink looks really good with it too. And then because I really liked that thin border, I decided I wanted to do the same for the rose gold background. Rose gold background. So I just used the same Victorian Velvet Distress ink. And I went just around the edges, and I cut this to the same size, the 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then glued that on another black card base. It's just enough. It's not too much color, but it's just enough to kind of peek around the edges. And that's pretty much going to wrap up my 3 cards. So thank you guys so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed this trio of cards that I made for this week's Simon Says Stamp Wednesday challenge. All of the supplies that I used are listed and linked in the description below and over on my blog as well. And if you want to join the challenge this week, you can either head to my blog where I'll have links to take you to the Simon Says Stamp Wednesday challenge blog, or you could just head right to the website and link up your project there. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and if you want to see more of my videos, click on the subscribe button and be sure to hit the little bell icon and you'll be notified when I post a new video, which is every Wednesday. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you next Wednesday. Bye!